Thank you. Thanks, everybody. This is March 28th, Climate Solutions Caucus meeting. We have a great agenda today where we're going to hear from members of the Climate Workforce Coalition, which is one of the network action teams that Energy Action Network has been facilitating for the last 2.5 years or so. I am one of the co-chairs. So I'm going to lead most of this conversation for one of the other co-chairs of the Network Action Team, Dylan Giambattista. I just want to flag that there are not as many legislators here as there typically are because of where we are with what's going on in the building and the number of votes that are moving and amendments that are being proposed for the floor. That being said, this is being recorded. And we will certainly share it out with our 90+ membership because making sure that we have the workforce and the training opportunities and the connecting elements to actually have the skilled tradespeople that we need to do so many of the projects and the initiatives that legislators keep voting in related to climate. Is critical, and many legislators recognize that and are really grateful for all the work that you all do. So with that, hi, co-chair. Hey. With that, I'm going to pass the baton to one of the other co-chairs of the Climate Workforce Coalition, Dylan Giambattista, who's going to run the rest of the show. And I'll also just say we can go, sorry, I keep passing, but not passing. We can go up to about 12:45. And given that there's so few legislators here, the other element on our agenda was actually going to be a cross-check in terms of what's being passed from the Senate to the House and what's being passed from the House to the Senate and how things were going. But I think with such a great turnout from the Climate Workforce Coalition and not as many legislators, we will just have the whole time to share updates. And with that, I pass the baton.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you, Gabrielle, and thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Make sure you eat pizza because apparently we're a little shy on head count here, but I'm sure we can finish that off. Look, it's a really busy time of year. You're all thinking about bills on the move. You're thinking about the budget. No one here is here to ask for any money this year. We're just here to tell you about all the great stuff that's going on in the space of understanding the needs of Vermont's climate workforce and some of the actual work that's underway that's seeking to address these areas. So real quick, let me give you the high level overview. Several years ago, the Energy Action Network, EAN, had a pitch for ideas at their annual networking summit. And a group of us came together and said, geez, we really have a need to build the workforce for the climate occupations that we know are going to result in reducing emissions and keeping pace with Vermont's thermal energy and other sector greenhouse gas reduction requirements. So you're all familiar with the Global Warming Solutions Act. We are too, and we want to make sure that the state keeps progress by building the climate workforce. So we got together, this was about 2.5 years ago, and we began to understand what is the scope of challenge that we face. We did some data and analysis to understand there's about 18,900 workers in Vermont's climate workforce. And those span occupations, right? We're not just talking about folks who are installing EV chargers. We're not just talking about folks who weatherize homes. We're talking about people in various trades doing all sorts of occupations. So any of the members of our coalition would be happy to talk about those at any point. But what we've also done is looking at the ways that we can actually build the workforce. So in the past couple of years, we've done things such as, in addition to analyzing what is the problem, we've started to think about specific strategies. So we've worked on creating outreach resources available for career counselors and coaches in the field, working with high school students, post-secondary education, and so forth. We've been coordinating with partners on scoping out a talent pipeline project for thermal energy workforce, something that you'll hear about today from Efficiency Vermont. We've been trying to support something that the legislature actually put dollars toward that's really consequential, and that is a Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund business coaching initiative for companies that have a climate focus that want to grow their businesses to serve in this area. We've supported an initiative where there's federal dollars that have been put into play for a weatherization training center, something that was worked on by the congressional delegation, state partners, the Department of Public Service, and others are working on that. So that's something that we've worked to support. And we're thinking about how do you build the actual pathways so that individuals who who might be at a point in their career where they're considering how they change and get into one of these areas. What are the barriers and how can we ease those paths going forward? So that's just a quick high level of what we do. Again, this is all organized by our friend Kara Robachek. I want to give a shout out to Jared Duval, our friends at Energy Action Network. They provide resources to do all this work, and the data and analysis that they help convene for these statewide conversations is just essential. So they do a great job. We also get a lot of help from our partners. So several of them are here today to tell you about things. So we're going to run through a pretty ambitious program here. We're going to touch on things. I don't know how you want to facilitate questions, Gabrielle, but we have several areas we want to chit chat. No questions. No questions.
How many is several?
We have today, Tom and Kate are going to give an update on Serve, Earn, Learn. We then have Tom Chaney to give a quick update on some of the work Advanced Vermont's doing with career pathways and trainings. We have Kelly Lucci to talk about Efficiency Vermont's focus on talent pipeline. And then finally, I believe we have someone from Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund to give a quick update on that. So we'll make it lightning fast.
Great. I think I will let you determine the timing and whether or not we should do questions during or at the end. But if it's only 4, it seems like we could take at least one question after each speaker.
Let's get it underway. All right, friends, Serve, Earn, Learn. Tell us what's going on.
Thank you so much. Thanks for this opportunity. My name is Kate Gluckman. I have the honor of directing Serve, Learn, Earn Coalition, and I currently live in North Troy. Founded in 2021, Serve, Learn, Earn is a workforce development collaborative that provides paid service and training opportunities across Vermont, creating pathways into affordable education and high-wage jobs. Founded by Resource, VYCC, Brett Knopf is here, Executive Director, as well as Vermont Works for Women and Audubon Vermont. Serve, Learn, Earn works at the nexus of the building and conservation trades and is bringing folks into the climate sector through weatherization, renewable energy, green building, forestry, outdoor recreation, and natural resource management, to name a few. Annually, we work with over 550 Vermonters ages 14 plus. So we're talking about youth, young adults, and adults. Last year, our participants earned 300 credentials of value and over $2.7 million in wages and stipends. Our programs are diverse in scope, but have some common elements that pull them under the Serve, Learn, Earn umbrella. Those are that we pay our participants. Access is key for us. We provide high quality vocational and personal development training, and all of our programs include service. Service as a means of work-based skill development, community building and strengthening, as well as capturing the personal and social benefits of contributing to the common good. We are grateful to share some success stories today. I'll share some from our partners and Tom will share some specifically from Resource. So through Vermont Works for Women Trailblazers construction program, we have women joining weatherization crews across the state of Vermont. These crews, through these crews, they've weatherized over 100 Vermont homes in their course of tenure, helping low-income neighbors reduce utility and cost and carbon usage. Audubon's Youth Leadership Program is training the next generation of conservation leaders and educators. This program exposes high school students to careers in forestry, environmental science, nature-based education, and environmental advocacy. It's such a success that Audubon, the national organization, has elevated it as a model, and programs across the nation now will be replicating their programs. Vermont Youth Conservation Corps enrolls 175 young adults each year to complete projects in sustainable agriculture, outdoor recreation, water quality, forestry, and green building. Many of these young leaders come to Vermont for VYCC and stay. An example of the generational impact of this work is that at this moment, all 4 of our regional park managers in Vermont Forest Parks and Recreation are VYCC alumni. I'll turn it over to Tom.
Okay. I'm Tom Longstreth. I'm the Executive Director of Resource. We run some reuse centers in 4 different places, but also have job training programs throughout the state. And our training programs begin with a work experience, which is really exposing people who need help getting into jobs with that first level training. We have workforce development programs which result in placement into jobs. And then we also run some apprenticeship programs for the educational side of it with in partnership with employers. My focus today is on our weatherization intensive because of the obvious focus. So I just wanted to say that the intensive model is part of that middle level of training programs, workforce development, which all have in common that we teach credentials, give skills that employers recognize, and then we place trainees into jobs. And so included in that is the intensives, which are weatherization intensive, a construction intensive, an HVAC intensive, and we're piloting 2 new ones this year. Then it also includes our youth build program. And we have 2 youth build programs, one in Barrie, one in Burlington, and we're looking at how we could expand it to other parts of the state.
Hartford.
Hartford. Youth build is a model that 16 to 24-year-olds who have dropped out of school or aren't succeeding in school and need to complete their education and get job skills. That's the general model. So weatherization focus, like all of our training programs, the weatherization intensive works with people who have barriers to employment. And on average, the trainees coming into the weatherization program have between 2 and 3 significant barriers, which may be poverty, it may be homelessness, it may be corrections involvement, it may be a physical disability or a substance abuse disorder. And so those are the most common sort of categories of barrier that trainees are coming into our programs with. What's interesting is that the trainees, even though the program is very short, it can be really transformational. And I want to explain that. I mean, all the intensives are 6 weeks long. First 4 weeks is intensive training and service. And then the final 2 weeks is a placement with an employer. We are actually also doing flood recovery rebuilding work because of our facility in Barrie was hit hard this summer. So we've made a commitment and are working with 4 different of the long-term recovery committees to rebuild housing. And so we're doing that with our youth build crews, but we've also added 2 new crews. One of those is a serve, learn, earn graduate crew, which we're just forming right now. So we're actually recruiting for that from our graduates. We currently are doing an intensive in Barrie. And so it's made sense because that crew is based in Barrie that we have some folks going directly into that. Jeff, our leader, was just telling me this morning that at first week of the program, he didn't think we were going to have anyone who we could place into it. Just their skills weren't advanced enough. They didn't have the attitude necessary to really go get them, be a hardworking crew. He totally changed his mind over the 4 weeks, and they're in their final week. And 2 of those good folks are going to be graduating into this crew, and it just shows the transformational potential of this. I got to interview 2 other trainees that I'm trying to keep this short. Casey was in a Rutland weatherization course. He'd been a line cook, a package delivery driver, auto glass tech. I did a mock interview with him, and part of what my practice interview essentially was in coaching him around his past drug and alcohol abuse. He'd lost his license, so he couldn't drive. Pretty important, most construction jobs. And so coaching him through that was pretty key. Another trainee had dropped out of high school, was interested in weatherization, was passionate about the environment. Going into weatherization, and it didn't really matter they didn't have a degree. But he actually, through the mock interview I did with him, he's clearly someone who has that entrepreneurial spirit with a bit of skill training, can go run his own business. And, I mean, not immediately, but, eventually he's going to get there. So the average wage rate of graduates of our weatherization program is over $21 an hour. We currently have a placement rate of 78%, but that includes about 11% who we never hear back from. And so they're included in that denominator. They're part of the 22% who we don't count as successes. If we heard back from some of them, I think that rate would likely improve. So, we have very strong results. employers are really desperate or, have an urgent need for good workers. And we're transforming people who otherwise would really have very few opportunities. And I think that's the real opportunity. What we're doing here is creating new workers for Vermont. And that's why we think there's very strong return on investment and it's worth continuing to invest in. So sorry, I hope that didn't.
No, that's perfect. And Gabrielle, I'll defer to you on questions because I know we have a lot of folks. Oh, you giving me is that on me or on you? It's on me. Can we hold questions for a few minutes? Because we have a lot of folks and we'll make sure that everyone gets contact info. Thank you to Vermont Youth Conservation Board, Resource, Server and Learn. All the work that they do is amazing. And it's going to make a big difference. Now, I should note, as the legislative language goes, I should seek the point of personal privilege to apologize because I left out Jay Ramsey, who's going to be speaking, our State Director of Workforce Development. But before we go to James, we're going to go to Tom Cheney. Tom,
You moved over here.
Tom, where are you? Your comments need to be brief and infrequent, so let's just do brief and get right into it.
I'll hand these out. You can take them if you want, otherwise I'll take them back. But so my name's Tom Cheney and I'm the Executive Director of Advanced Vermont, and we're a little nonprofit focused on helping Vermonters ensure that they're able to see and pursue education and training after high school. You might see us in the legislature, we dabble a little in policy, a little bit in data and research, a lot of collaborations, but also we're very focused on what we call changing the narrative. So it's around making sure that Vermonters can see those pathways after high school that get them into a good, strong education that leads to a good career. And we know that we have so many workers that we need to meet our climate goals. And as a climate coalition, we've really discussed how can we recruit those workers? How can we train them? And when I think about workforce development, and Jay may have a different way of describing it, it's probably way oversimplified, but I think of it like a three-legged stool. So you've got education and training programs that are career connected. You have the resources, supports like the Department of Labor, hireability, a lot of financial aid. But before you get those, you have to have aspirations. You have to have Vermonters be able to see that there's a career and education pathway for them. So that's a lot of where we're focused as an organization and as a climate workforce coalition in this space. My Future BT is the tool that Advanced Vermont has created that's a free online career and education exploration hub for Vermonters. So they can come here, take a look at careers, explore education and training, and then get connected to different support services across the state. What we've done with this group is actually focus on industry and specifically on climate workforce, and created this piece of paper that we showed you here, but also a page on our site that can connect you to more information about the workforce. This is kind of phase one, maybe 0.5 really, of what needs to be a really broad and coordinated and exhaustive effort to get this information in front of youth and adults so they know about these pathways, that they can do good fighting climate change and all these kind of interesting and sometimes surprising career paths. So we've been working with this coalition to develop this resource, getting it out there, going to different events and conferences, training school counselors and others, so making them aware of the opportunities and how to talk about them with their students. So that's in a nutshell what we're doing, and happy to take questions after.
Great. Well, that was very brief. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Jay, I want to put you on the spot here. Can you tell us a little bit about the work of DOL and some of the affordable and accessible funding and training that's available right now?
Sure. Well, I'm going to start with, we're hiring a communication and outreach coordinator whose job will be to let the public know what is available to us. Hopefully you all know that we operate VermontJobLink.com, which is the public job board. It's also our case management system, and the work that we do connecting Vermonters who need public assistance is handled in that system. So we have federal funds through WIOA, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, that will support eligible individuals with training needs. We operate a list of trainings that the federal money can be spent on. Tom has a beautiful website with lots of training options there. We do have state funds that can support people in this. So I'm talking about individual level funding, but we also have programmatic level funding, especially in the registered apprenticeship program. Registered apprenticeship is really important because the labor market being as it is, employers are having to train people and when they hire them. And registered apprenticeship is that training model. The company registers with the department. I would remind legislators in the room, last year you passed Act 55, which modernized the registered apprenticeship system, and gave us 2 new on-ramps that we're in the process of building: pre-apprenticeship and youth apprenticeship. And that youth apprenticeship is a more intentional connection with our CTE centers, getting high school students in and connected to registered apprenticeship through some seamless transitions. I'm building up my staff capacity to support development of those programs. We just hired a new state director for apprenticeship. She was the co-op coordinator at Center for Technology in Essex. So we have another person on the team that has knowledge of the public education system and specifically technical education. And I'm also going to highlight the work of the House Commerce Committee, and Representative Williams is here. Thank the House Commerce Committee for their work on H707 in the House for passing it, and now it's in the Senate. And that modernizes the workforce governance system, makes the Workforce Development Board a little bit smaller, expands the scope a little bit beyond the federal money that we have coming in, and would create a full-time executive director of the board whose job it is to coordinate across state government, which is something that I do, but it's many hands make light work.
Spent a lot of time on it. It's good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll mention it to some folks.
Great. Well, so far we focused on some of the resources that are available for workers
Yeah.
in part. So want to think about some of the tools available to employers and some of the progress we've made in this area. See, Kelly Lucci from Efficiency Vermont is here, and
Hey,
what
Kelly.
you can give us an update.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it relatively brief. I guess what else?
Can you scooch in so that folks on the.
Absolutely. I guess where I'll start with is you wouldn't typically think of Efficiency Vermont as being an organization that would be participating or engaged in the workforce space. And I want to ground the reality that, we are required to deliver projects and energy savings for the state. And what we found over the last few years is that that is getting increasingly difficult because we have a network of contractors we work with who cannot find people to work for them. So have been really grateful to be able to get engaged with all of these partners. Really appreciate EAN's work in pulling this group together because it's challenging, I think, to come into this space with all of the need and all of the sort of disparate resources that are available. Where we are looking to focus is really grounding our work in the contractors that we work with, helping to understand what it looks like for them to have a pipeline of workers that they can tap if they want to expand their business, if they want to be able to complete more projects. Really thinking about how we can interface with the training programs that can help people who are voicing an interest in taking on these careers to move quickly and get into that space. So one exciting development, I think, as a result of our being part of this process is we've actually, we have created a new position at Efficiency Vermont, a workforce development manager, who will be cited within our supply chain team. So our folks who work with our contractor network. And their role will really be to engage with partners, engage with our contractors, and apply an approach called talent pipeline management. Which is aimed at sort of strategically identifying gaps and focus areas to try to increase workforce capacity over the sort of short, medium, and long term. So we're really excited. We have a new person who will be starting in this role as of April 8th. And he'll be at we have a major conference happening next week, Better Buildings by Design. He'll be at the conference, and we're really looking forward to digging into this space a little bit more and seeing how we can get more work done. That's ultimately what it's about.
Perfect.
Who's the new person?
His name is Will Schwartz. He actually, we had a number of folks from outside of Vermont who are interested in this role. He's coming to Vermont from Indiana. So we're adding somebody to the workforce.
Already.
Yes.
Now
And he has housing.
we found housing, yes.
Not Will Short's the CrossFit.
No, not the puzzle master.
Yeah, okay, not a puzzle.
Is that would be a bad workforce transfer.
And then we have one other update to share, and I don't think our friend from Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund was available, possibly coming in by Zoom, so.
Oh,
hello, there you are, wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, please update us on the coaching program.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. So my name is Kathy Murphy Moriarty. I am a business coach with the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund, and I'm just going to take a minute to update you on our new initiative in partnership with Efficiency Vermont's Energy Efficiency Network and Vermont Gas Systems. And the program is called the Tools of the Trade: Business Fundamentals for Energy Pros. And quite frankly, that is literally what it is. It's an 18-month-long program that we were just kicking off mid-February, where we are partnered together, 12 business entrepreneurs across the state of Vermont are partnered with business coaches. And the goal of the program is to begin to build competency and understanding in everything from strategic planning and goal setting to human resources, staff management, financial business planning, operations, project management, sales, marketing, customer relations. Fundamentally, all of the functions that business entrepreneurs would like to develop in their early stage growth. So mid-February, we had a half-day kickoff. The goal was literally to get to know one another, to build out a network, to share business challenges and opportunities and backgrounds. And literally, the program over the next 18 months has 3 elements that will build upon training and knowledge and skills and connections. And that's literally, there's boot camps for the first 6 months. Then we'll be doing some cohort trainings on business fundamentals and industry challenges. And then we have one-on-one coaching to support the unique needs of any one of the 12 participating businesses. So each business has an individual coach. They work with their coach over a month and over the next 18 months to really flesh out the issues that a particular business is facing. And then the boot camps, if you will talk about leadership and organizational culture, financial statements, systems, HR, again, mission, vision, values, and sales and marketing. And so we're at a very early stage, but we're really excited because these businesses really do want to grow, want to hire more people, and certainly want to address the demands, if you will, in this sector as effectively and as efficiently as they can. So I appreciate the opportunity to give you all a quick update. Thank you.
Great. Well, I mean, I'm pretty happy here. We're on time, Gabrielle, but also, just it is sort of a sign of what's possible with the collaboration between the policy that is set in Vermont, how it can spur the good work that goes on with all these partners. And we just really appreciate the opportunity to come share some updates, and I'll let you decide if there's time for questions or anything else as we get moving.
I think there is. It's only 12:42. So
Yeah.
Okay. So this is great to hear all these training opportunities and building the supply of trained climate workforce. Something I've been working on is in effect increasing the demand from the existing construction industry, raising the game of the existing construction companies for one thing, we passed a builder registry a couple of years ago that is now required. So residential builders have to register with the Office of Professional Regulation at the Secretary of State's office. And we had a summer study committee last summer and fall, to talk about how to increase compliance with RBs and CBs, the energy codes. Particularly RBs, because CBs involves licensed professionals typically, and they don't want to lose their licenses, so they abide by the codes. But most consumers don't know that we have residential codes, and a lot of builders don't know we have residential energy codes. And we don't have a residential building code, which is sort of a key mechanism for providing administration and enforcement of energy codes, which are a form of building codes, really. That study committee came up with a report and recommendations that I put into a bill that is not going to go anywhere this year because of everything else that's happening. But it's the foundation of a bill next year, I hope. But there is a bill,
On our side,
S-253. And
on the floor, hopefully today.
I think it's number 3 on your list. You better get to it.
Oh, I'm hoping. Who knows?
So S-253, the chair of the Summer Study Committee was the chair of Natural Resources and Energy in the Senate, Chris Bray. So he put together a bill that would, in effect, make this study committee into a working group that continues for the next few years, and also requires OPR to really up its game in its builder registry. So right now, it's a pretty miserable website. In order to find anything, you have to download a spreadsheet of builders, and then you can, filter them and stuff. So anyway, it requires some specific updates to the OPR's registry. And I'm also looking at trying to get another piece added to it that would set up Division of Fire Safety, which handles all the other building codes, to be the one that is vetting training certifications. So the registry requires registration, but certifications are voluntary. So it's, small steps in the legislature, right? The voluntary certifications need to be vetted by somebody, by some state office. And it was not clear how that was going to happen with the registry. It looked like Secretary of State's office was going to do that. Well, they don't really have the capacity to do it. So we're going to try to set it up that DFS is doing that. Anyway, S-253 is about to be voted out of the Senate and referred to the House, and we'll try to make sure something happens with it the last few weeks of the session. So I just want to let everybody know about that.
Let the legislature start talking, we run over time.
I know, immediately. It's all his fault.
Yeah, we are at 12:46. Legislators, if there are specific questions, I encourage you to stay to the extent that you're able, and feel free to follow up with any of the folks here. Thank you so much for a great presentation and for all the work that all of you guys do. Really appreciate it. A lot more to get done, but thank you. Really appreciate it.
Before we go, 2 thoughts. First, it'd be great to get a photograph of all the folks who are players in this space, because that's helpful for us. And then the second thing is your handout. We're going to put it in the mailboxes of folks who are not present. Did anyone else bring out a handout or anything that they were hoping to share? And if so, we can include that. Okay, guess not. Oh, look, Jared's already up and taking the photo. Oh, great. Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.